On the fifth day aboard the space station Harmony, Commander Zektar called all the humans to the main meeting room. His rainbow skin seemed dimmer than before, and his 4 arms moved nervously as he spoke. "We have decided to begin the formal evaluation," he announced. "Your species must pass several tests before we can consider allowing Earth to join the Galactic Council." Admiral Jake Morrison felt his stomach tighten. The past few days of talking had not gone as well as he had hoped. The aliens seemed worried about human nature, especially their history of fighting and competition. "What kind of tests?" asked Dr. Helen Brooks. Zektar waved one of his hands, and the room around them suddenly changed. The walls disappeared, replaced by what looked like a completely different world. Mountains rose in the distance, and strange purple plants covered the ground. "This is a simulation," explained Vex-High, the energy being in the metal suit. "We will present you with situations that test how your species responds to challenges." Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Parker looked around the artificial world with amazement. The technology was incredible. Everything looked and felt completely real, even though he knew they were still inside the space station. "Your first test involves resource management," Zektar continued. "You will find yourselves on a world where 3 different species need the same rare mineral to survive. There is not enough for everyone. How will you solve this problem?" The simulation began immediately. The humans found themselves standing in what appeared to be a mining camp. Computer-generated aliens from 3 different species approached them, each explaining their desperate need for a blue crystal that grew deep underground. General Patricia Kane, Earth's senior military strategist, immediately began studying the situation. She walked around the camp, asking questions about how much crystal each species needed and how quickly they needed it. "First, we need to understand the real requirements," she said to her team. "Maybe there are ways to use less crystal or find alternatives." Dr. Kevin Ross, the team's economist, started drawing diagrams in the dirt. He calculated how much crystal existed and how it could be distributed fairly among the 3 species. "If we mine more efficiently and share the cost of extraction, everyone can get what they need," he suggested. The alien observers watched from outside the simulation. They seemed surprised by how quickly the humans organized themselves into a working team. Even though no one had appointed a leader, the humans naturally fell into roles based on their skills. Lieutenant Sarah Kim noticed something the others had missed. "What if we teach each species how to mine the crystal themselves?" she suggested. "Then they won't need to depend on others in the future." Within 2 hours, the humans had developed a complete solution. They would help all 3 species work together to mine more crystal, share the technology needed to process it efficiently, and create a long-term plan for sustainable extraction. "Test complete," announced Zektar, and the simulation ended. The humans found themselves back in the meeting room. The alien representatives looked confused and slightly disturbed. "You solved the problem very quickly," observed Nathal, the tree-like alien. "But your approach was very structured." "Structured how?" asked Dr. Susan Wells. "You immediately created a hierarchy," explained the Corvani representative in its musical voice. "One human became the leader, others became followers. This is not how we would approach the problem." Ryan Parker frowned. "But our method worked. Everyone got what they needed." "Yes, but at what cost?" asked Vex-High. "You turned cooperation into a form of conquest. You made the 3 species dependent on your leadership." The humans looked at each other with confusion. They had solved the problem peacefully and fairly, but somehow the aliens saw this as a bad thing. "How would your species handle the situation?" Dr. Brooks asked. "We would join our minds together," Zektar explained. "All thoughts and feelings would be shared until a perfect solution emerged naturally." "But what if that takes a long time?" asked Captain Alex Chen. "What if the species die while you are thinking together?" The aliens had no answer for this question. They seemed uncomfortable with the idea that sometimes quick decisions were necessary. The second test began the next day. This time, the simulation showed a planet where two species had been arguing over territory for hundreds of years. Neither side wanted to fight, but they could not agree on how to share the land. The humans approached this problem with the same organized efficiency as before. They studied maps, interviewed both species, and analyzed the resources each group needed. Alex Chen took the lead this time. He was naturally good at talking to people and understanding different points of view. Within hours, he had identified the real problem. They both need access to the river, but they think sharing means giving up control, he explained to his team. "We need to show them that cooperation makes both sides stronger." General Kane suggested building a shared irrigation system that would help both species use the river more effectively. Dr. Ross calculated how this would benefit everyone economically. By the end of the day, the humans had created a detailed plan for peace between the two species. The plan included shared infrastructure, cultural exchange programs, and a joint council to handle future disputes. Once again, the alien observers seemed troubled by the human response. "You solved another problem efficiently," Zektar admitted. "But again, you imposed your own ideas of organization and structure." "We brought peace," Ryan pointed out. "Isn't that what matters?" "Peace achieved through dominance is not true peace," replied the Corvani. "True peace comes from understanding and harmony." Dr. Wells was beginning to understand the aliens' concern. "You think we are too controlling, don't you?" "Your species cannot help but take charge," Nathal said sadly. "Even when you mean well, you reshape everything around your own ideas." The third test was the most difficult yet. The simulation presented a scenario where a dangerous disease was spreading across a planet inhabited by a peaceful species that refused to take any action that might hurt the disease organisms. The humans were horrified by this situation. The disease was killing thousands of innocent people, but the planet's inhabitants would not fight it because they believed all life was sacred. "This is insane," General Kane said bluntly. "They are letting themselves die for no good reason." Dr. Brooks approached the problem more carefully. She studied the disease and the planet's ecosystem, looking for a solution that would not require killing the disease organisms. "What if we could relocate the disease to a place where it cannot hurt anyone?" she suggested. Sarah Kim had another idea. "Maybe we can communicate with the disease somehow. Find out what it really needs and give it that instead of forcing it to infect people." The human team worked for days on this problem. They developed multiple solutions, including relocating the disease, creating artificial hosts, and even attempting to communicate with the disease organisms. But what shocked the alien observers most was how the humans refused to give up. Even when their first solutions failed, they kept trying new approaches. "Your species does not accept defeat," Vexhai observed. "This is both admirable and frightening." When the third test ended, the aliens gathered together for a private discussion. The humans could see them through the transparent walls of their meeting room, but could not hear what they were saying. "They are deciding our fate," Jake Morrison said quietly. "Whatever they decide, we gave it our best effort," Dr. Brooks replied. But, deep down, everyone knew the tests had not gone the way the aliens wanted. Humanity's natural tendency to take charge and solve problems efficiently seemed to worry the peaceful galactic species. The next day would bring the aliens' verdict on whether Earth was ready to join the galactic community. The alien representatives had been meeting in private for 6 hours. Through the glass walls of their conference room, the humans could see them moving their arms and making gestures, but no sound came through. Whatever they were discussing, it was clearly very important. Dr. Margaret Stone sat in the observation lounge, watching the aliens with professional interest. As Earth's chief psychologist, she had been studying their behavior patterns since the meetings began. What she had discovered worried her. "Admiral Morrison, I need to speak with you privately," she said, pulling Jake aside. They walked to a quiet corner of the space station where they could talk without being overheard. "What have you learned?" Jake asked. Margaret looked tired. She had been working almost without sleep for the past week, trying to understand how the alien minds worked. "They are afraid of us," she said simply. Jake felt his heart sink. "Afraid? But we have been nothing but peaceful and cooperative." "That is exactly the problem," Margaret explained. "We solve problems in ways they cannot understand. To them, our efficiency looks like aggression." She pulled out her tablet and showed Jake her notes. Charts and diagrams filled the screen, tracking alien behavior patterns and reactions. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a graph. "Every time we solved one of their test problems, their stress levels went up, not down. They are not testing our ability to solve problems. They are testing whether we can solve problems without taking control." Jake studied the data. The pattern was clear. The more successful the humans were at finding solutions, the more agitated the aliens became. "So what do they want from us?" he asked. "I think they want us to fail," Margaret said sadly. "They want to see us struggle and ask for help. They want us to be dependent on their guidance." Meanwhile, in the main meeting room, the human diplomatic team was growing restless. Dr. Helen Brooks paced back and forth, thinking about everything that had happened during the tests. "We did everything right," she said to the others. "We solved every problem they gave us. We found peaceful solutions that helped everyone." Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Parker nodded in agreement. "But they acted like we did something wrong every time." Captain Alex Chen had been quiet for most of the day, but now he spoke up. "Maybe that is the point. Maybe they do not want us to be good at solving problems." Dr. Susan Wells looked up from her cultural analysis reports. "That would explain their reactions. In their society, being too competent might be seen as a threat to group harmony." The conversation was interrupted when Commander Zektar entered the room. His rainbow skin was darker than usual, and his 4 arms moved in slow, deliberate patterns. "We are ready to begin the final test," he announced. The humans gathered around as the room transformed once again. This time, the simulation showed a space battle in progress. Alien ships were attacking a peaceful planet, and the planet's inhabitants were calling for help. "This is different from the other tests," Dr. Brooks observed. The previous simulations had been about cooperation and resource management. This one was about conflict and violence. The attacking ships in the simulation looked nothing like the peaceful vessels of the Galactic Council. These ships were dark and angular, covered with obvious weapons. They fired energy beams at cities on the planet below, causing massive destruction. Your task is to respond to this situation, Zektar explained. How would your species handle this crisis? The humans looked at each other in confusion. The solution seemed obvious, but they sensed this was a trap of some kind. Colonel Eric Davis, who had been mostly quiet during the previous tests, stepped forward. As a military officer, he understood combat situations better than the others. "We need to stop the attack," he said. "Those ships are killing innocent people." "How would you stop them?" asked Vex High, the energy being. Eric studied the tactical situation displayed in the simulation. The attacking ships were powerful, but they seemed focused on destruction rather than defense. "We would send our own ships to protect the planet," he said. "Drive off the attackers and help the survivors." The alien observers exchanged looks that the humans could not interpret. Zektar made a gesture, and the simulation changed. Now it showed what would happen if Earth's military responded to the attack. Human warships appeared in the simulation, engaging the dark ships in battle. The humans fought efficiently and effectively, driving off the attackers and saving the planet. But when the battle ended, something strange happened. The saved planet's inhabitants seemed afraid of their human rescuers. They thanked the humans, but asked them to leave quickly. "Why are they afraid of us?" asked Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "We just saved their lives." "Because you used violence to solve the problem," explained Nithal, the tree-like alien. "Even violence in defense of others is still violence." Dr. Brooks felt a growing sense of understanding. "You have never faced a situation like this, have you? Your species have never encountered real aggression." The silence that followed confirmed her suspicion. The Galactic Council members looked uncomfortable, almost embarrassed. "We have been fortunate," Zektar admitted. "For thousands of years, all species in our galaxy have been peaceful. We have never needed to defend ourselves against true aggression." "Then how would you handle this situation?" Ryan Parker asked. "We would try to communicate with the attackers," said the Corvani representative. "Find out what they want and try to give it to them peacefully." "And if they just want to destroy everything?" Eric Davis asked. "What if communication is impossible?" The aliens had no answer. They looked at each other with expressions that seemed lost and confused. Captain Lisa Turner, who had been observing quietly, realized something important. "You called us here not just to test us, but because you need us." "That is not true," Vexhai said quickly, but the denial sounded weak. "Yes, it is," Lisa continued. "Your peaceful galaxy is not prepared for real threats. You need species like humanity to protect you." The accusation hung in the air like a challenge. The alien representative seemed shocked that a human had figured out their real motivation. "We do not need warriors," Zektar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Dr. Wells pulled up data on her tablet. "According to your own historical records, which you shared with us, there have been 3 unexplained disappearances of entire star systems in the past 1,000 years. Ships went to investigate and never returned." The aliens looked even more uncomfortable. This was clearly a sensitive topic. "Those were natural disasters," Nithal said. "Were they?" Dr. Brooks asked. "Or were they something your peaceful species could not handle?" The truth was becoming clear. The Galactic Council was not just evaluating humanity for membership. They were looking for protectors, but they were too proud to admit they needed protection. The final test had revealed more about the aliens than about humans. They had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to defend themselves against real threats. As the day ended, both sides understood that the evaluation process had taken an unexpected turn. The question was no longer whether humanity was suitable for galactic society, but whether galactic society was ready for the harsh realities that humans understood all too well. Tomorrow would bring the final decision, but now everyone knew that the stakes were much higher than anyone had originally thought. 3 days after the first alien message, the space station Harmony floated quietly between Earth and the Moon. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the observation deck as the alien ships approached. They moved like graceful dancers through space, their crystal surfaces catching the light from the sun. Dr. Helen Brooks stood beside him, checking her equipment one more time. She had never been so nervous in her life. Today, humans would meet beings from other worlds for the first time. Everything had to go perfectly. "Are you ready for this?" Jake asked her. "Nobody could be ready for this," Helen replied. "But we have to try our best." Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Parker walked into the observation area wearing his best uniform. As the military representative for Earth, he wanted to make a good impression. But he was worried about how the aliens might react to seeing a soldier. "Sir, the alien ships are docking now," reported Lieutenant Amy Carter from the communications station. "They are asking permission to come aboard." Jake took a deep breath. "Tell them they are welcome." The first thing that surprised everyone was how quietly the aliens moved. There were no loud footsteps or mechanical sounds. Instead, the corridors of the space station filled with a soft humming noise, like music played very quietly. When the aliens appeared in the main meeting room, every human present stopped breathing for a moment. The beings were unlike anything anyone had imagined. Commander Zektar stood nearly 8 feet tall. His skin looked like it was made of shifting rainbows, changing colors as he moved. He had 4 arms that moved independently, and his face had large, dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "Greetings, people of Earth," Zektar said. His voice came from a small device on his chest, translating his thoughts into English. "We are honored to meet you." Behind him stood representatives from 11 other alien species. Dr. Helen Brooks tried to study them all at once, but there were too many amazing things to see. The Valix representative looked like a person-shaped collection of bright energy, contained inside a metal suit. Lights danced inside the suit where a body should be. When it spoke, the voice sounded like electricity crackling. "We have traveled far to meet your kind," the Valix said. "Your species shows promise." Dr. Susan Wells, the team's expert on different cultures, watched the aliens carefully. She noticed how they moved and stood together. They seemed to share information without speaking, sometimes turning to look at the same thing at exactly the same time. The Corvani representative was the strangest of all. It looked like a large insect covered in beautiful purple fur. When it communicated, it made musical sounds that the translator turned into words. "Your minds are interesting," the Corvani said in its musical voice. "Each human thinks alone, but you still work together. This is unusual." Commander Zektar raised one of his 4 hands for attention. "We are the Galactic Council. We represent thousands of worlds across the galaxy. We have come to evaluate whether humanity is ready to join our community." Jake Morrison stepped forward. "We are honored by your visit. What do you need to know about us?" "We must understand your nature," Zektar explained. "Many species have tried to join the galactic community, but not all were ready. Some were too aggressive, others were too primitive. We must be sure you will bring peace, not conflict." Dr. Brooks felt her heart sink a little. Humanity had spent most of its history fighting wars. She wondered what these peaceful aliens would think when they learned about human conflicts. "Lieutenant Colonel Parker noticed how the aliens reacted when they talked about aggression. They seemed uncomfortable with the very idea of fighting. Their body language suggested they found violence confusing and frightening. "How long has the Galactic Council existed?" Dr. Wells asked. "For over 10,000 of your years," replied Nathal, another council member who looked like a tall, thin tree with silver bark. "We have learned that peace brings prosperity. War brings only suffering." The aliens spent the rest of the day asking questions about human society. They wanted to know about governments, families, art, and science. They seemed particularly interested in how humans made decisions and solved problems. "You have individual leaders," observed Vexhai, the Valak's representative. "This is strange to us. We make decisions together as one mind." Captain Alex Chen, who had joined the diplomatic team, tried to explain human democracy. "We vote on important decisions. Everyone gets to have their opinion heard." The aliens looked confused by this explanation. They whispered to each other in their various languages, and their translator devices worked hard to keep up. "But what if your opinions disagree?" asked the Corvani representative. "How do you choose which opinion is correct?" "Sometimes we argue," Alex admitted. "But usually we find a way to compromise." This answer seemed to worry the aliens even more. They had never encountered a species that regularly disagreed with itself, and then found ways to work together anyway. As the day continued, the cultural differences became more obvious. When Dr. Brooks showed the aliens pictures of human cities, they seemed shocked by the size and complexity. Their own worlds were much simpler and more organized. "You build so much," Zektar observed. "Why do you need such large structures?" "Humans like to create things," Helen explained. "We build cities, make art, and explore new ideas because it makes us happy." "But building requires taking resources from the planet," noted the tree-like alien. "Do you not worry about harming your world?" Ryan Parker saw an opportunity to show humanity's better side. "We are learning to build better. We are developing clean energy and trying to protect our environment." The aliens seemed pleased by this answer, but they still looked concerned about other aspects of human nature. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the youngest member of the human team, noticed that the aliens became nervous whenever humans talked about competition or achievement. They seemed to prefer cooperation and harmony above all else. "Do humans ever fight each other?" asked Vexhai directly. The question everyone had been dreading finally came. Jake Morrison decided to be honest. "Yes, we have had wars in the past," he admitted. "But we are working hard to solve problems peacefully now." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. The aliens looked at each other with what appeared to be disappointment and concern. "Violence is forbidden in the galactic community," Zektar said sadly. "Species that cannot control their aggressive impulses are not allowed to join." Dr. Brooks felt panic rising in her chest. Was humanity about to be rejected because of their history of warfare? "But we have also shown great compassion," she said quickly. "Humans help each other during disasters. We care for the sick and protect the weak." The aliens considered this information carefully. Their evaluation of humanity was clearly more complex than a simple yes or no answer. As the first day of meetings ended, nobody knew what the aliens would decide about Earth's future. The alarm bells rang across Luna Base at exactly 8 in the morning. Admiral Jake Morrison jumped from his chair in the command center and ran to the main screen. His heart was beating fast as he watched the data coming in from space. "What do we have, Carter?" he asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her computer screen with wide eyes. "Sir, we are getting a signal from space. It is not from any of our ships or stations. The signal is coming from beyond Neptune." Jake felt his stomach drop. After all these years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, today might be the day they got their answer. He had trained for this moment his whole career, but now that it was happening, he felt scared and excited at the same time. "Can you understand what they are saying?" Jake asked. Amy worked on her computer for several minutes. The other officers in the command center stood around watching her work. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were the beeping of computers and the hum of the air systems. "Sir, I think they want to talk to us," Amy said finally. "The message is repeating over and over. It says they come in peace and want to meet our leaders." Dr. Helen Brooks was working in her lab when she got the emergency call. As Earth's top expert on the possibility of alien life, she had spent 20 years studying space and wondering what other life forms might exist. Now she was running through the halls of Luna Base toward the command center. When she arrived, she saw Admiral Morrison staring at the main screen. The screen showed a map of the solar system with several bright dots near Neptune. The dots were moving slowly toward Earth. "How many ships are there?" Helen asked. "Our sensors show 12 ships," said Captain Ben Taylor, who ran the deep space monitoring station. "They are big, but they do not look like warships. The ships are smooth and shiny, almost like they are made of glass or crystal." Helen studied the data on her tablet. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had ever built. They had no sharp edges or obvious weapons. Instead, they looked beautiful and peaceful. "Have they said anything else besides wanting to meet?" Helen asked. Amy Carter shook her head. "Just the same message over and over. They say they have been watching us and think we are ready to talk." Jake Morrison felt a chill go down his back. "Watching us? For how long?" "We do not know, sir," Amy replied. "But the message suggests it has been a long time." Over the next few hours, more information came in about the alien visitors. The ships were much larger than anything humans had built. Each one was about the size of a city, but they moved through space without making any noise or leaving any trail. Dr. Brooks worked with her team to analyze everything they could learn about the visitors. The ships used technology that human scientists did not understand. They seemed to bend space around them to travel faster than light should allow. "This changes everything," Helen told Admiral Morrison during their meeting that afternoon. "If they have been watching us, they know about our wars, our pollution, our problems, but they still want to talk. That has to be a good sign." Captain Taylor had been working all day to track the alien ships. They were getting closer to Earth, but moving very slowly. At their current speed, they would reach Earth's orbit in 3 days. "Sir, I think they are being careful not to scare us," Taylor reported. "They could probably be here in minutes if they wanted to, but they are taking their time." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Carter had been trying to learn more about the alien language. The message they sent was in perfect English, but she could detect other signals that seemed to be in different languages. "Admiral, I think they are sending the same message in many different human languages," she said. "Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Russian. They know about all our different countries and peoples." Jake Morrison walked to the window of the command center and looked out at Earth. From Luna Base, he could see the blue and white planet hanging in space like a beautiful marble. Soon, that planet would have its first official visit from beings from another world. "Have we heard anything from Earth?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Carter replied. "The President wants to speak with you in 1 hour." The United Nations is calling an emergency meeting. Everyone is very excited and very nervous. Dr. Brooks joined Jake at the window. "What do you think they want?" she asked. "I hope they just want to be friends," Jake said, "but we need to be ready for anything." As the day went on, more details about the aliens became clear. Their ships were not just big, they were incredibly advanced. Human sensors could barely understand how they worked. The ships seemed to be alive somehow, like they were grown instead of built. Captain Taylor discovered that the alien ships were not just traveling together. They were connected somehow. Information seemed to flow between all 12 ships instantly, as if they were all part of one big mind. "It is like they are all thinking together," Taylor explained to the command team. "When one ship changes direction, they all change direction at the same time." This discovery made everyone more nervous. If the aliens could think together as one group, they might be much smarter than humans. They might be able to make decisions and solve problems much faster than individual humans could. But Dr. Brooks had a different idea. "Maybe thinking together makes them more peaceful," she suggested. "If everyone shares the same thoughts and feelings, it would be hard to fight or be mean to each other." As the sun set on Earth, Jake Morrison made his decision. He would accept the alien request for a meeting. Humanity would meet these visitors and try to learn what they wanted. "Send a message back," he told Carter. "Tell them we accept their request to meet. Ask them where and when they want to talk." The reply came back in just minutes. The aliens wanted to meet on a space station between Earth and the Moon. They would send a small group of representatives from different alien species to talk with human leaders. "Different species?" Jake asked. "You mean there is more than one type of alien?" "Yes, sir," Carter replied. "The message says they represent something called the Galactic Council. There are 12 different alien species in their group." As night fell over Luna Base, Jake Morrison looked out at the stars and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Humanity was about to meet not just one alien species, but 12. The universe was much more crowded than anyone had imagined. The next day would change everything for the human race. 3 weeks after the battle ended, Captain Henry Clark stood in the main hall of what had once been a Zalani government building. The walls were cracked from the fighting, but Zalani workers were already fixing them. Through the large windows, he could see human and Zalani crews working together to clear debris from the streets. Henry was now the highest-ranking human officer left alive. Captain Lucas White had died when the Endeavour was destroyed in the final hours of the battle. Admiral Stone had promoted Henry to lead what remained of the human fleet. "Captain Clark, you have visitors," said his assistant, Lieutenant Amy Foster. Henry turned to see a group of aliens walking toward him. But these were not Zalani. They were completely different species that Henry had never seen before. One looked like a giant insect with 4 arms. Another was covered in what looked like living crystals. A third had skin that seemed to be made of metal. The insect-like alien spoke first. Its voice was translated by a small device it carried. "Captain Clark, I am Ambassador Zex Kree of the Velkari Empire. We have traveled many light years to meet the humans who answered the Zalani distress call." Henry was confused. "How did you know about our mission?" "News travels fast in this part of the galaxy," the crystal alien said. "I am Resonance Prime of the Crystalline Collective. What your species did has never happened before in recorded galactic history." The metal-skinned alien stepped forward. "I am Speaker Thune of the Thex Republic. We came here because we must understand why humans would risk everything to save strangers." Henry looked around the room. More aliens were arriving every hour. Word about humanity's rescue mission was spreading across the galaxy, and different species were coming to see these strange creatures called humans. Ambassador Julie Rogers had been a diplomat on Earth before the mission. Now she found herself as humanity's first representative to the galaxy. She was meeting with alien leaders in a conference room that had been hastily repaired after the battle. "Ambassador Rogers," said a tall, thin alien with purple skin, I'm Minister Kelvar from the hegemony of distant suns. We received a distress call from a species in our region 5 years ago. We decided it was too dangerous to help them." Julie felt sad when she heard this. What happened to them? They were destroyed by the same machines that attacked Zalani Prime. We could have saved them, but we chose not to risk our own ships. Another alien who looked like a walking tree spoke up. "I am Rootsinger Velthara of the Growing Worlds. We also ignored distress calls from dying civilizations. We thought it was not our problem." Julie realized what was happening. These aliens were feeling guilty about not helping others, and they wanted to understand why humans had done something they could not do. "Why did your people come here?" asked Minister Kelvar. "The Zalani could not pay you. They could not give you anything valuable. What did humans gain from this?" Julie thought about how to explain it. "We gained the knowledge that we did the right thing. We gained new friends. We gained the feeling that comes from helping someone who needed help." The aliens looked confused. These were ideas they had never considered before. On the other side of Zalani Prime, engineer Alex Turner was helping to rebuild the capital city. Human construction workers were teaching Zalani engineers how to build stronger buildings. Zalani architects were showing humans how to make structures that could bend without breaking. "Alex, look at this," said his partner, Zalani engineer Mulsara. She was pointing to a design on her computer. "If we combine human steelmaking with Zalani flexible materials, we can build structures that are stronger than anything either of our species has made before." Alex smiled. Working with the Zalani had taught him that cooperation could create things that neither species could make alone. Dr. Nancy Bell was in charge of setting up communication networks between the different alien species. She had spent weeks learning how different aliens communicated and finding ways to translate between their languages. "Dr. Bell, we have a problem," said her assistant, Lieutenant Paul Martinez. "The Velkari communicate using chemical smells, the Crystalline Collective uses light patterns, and the Thex use electrical signals. How do we get them all to talk to each other?" Nancy looked at the challenge with excitement instead of worry. "We build a universal translator that can convert between all their communication methods. It will be the first device of its kind in the galaxy." The project took 2 months, but when it was finished, different alien species could talk to each other for the first time in galactic history. The translator became the foundation for something much bigger. Captain Adam Foster was standing on the observation deck of the new space station being built in orbit around Zalani Prime. The station was called Unity Station, and it was designed to be a meeting place for all the species in the galaxy. The station was huge, with sections built by different alien races. The human section was practical and efficient. The Zalani section was beautiful and flowing. The Velkari section was like a giant hive. Each species had contributed their best ideas to make something amazing. "Captain Foster, the representatives, are arriving for the signing ceremony," reported his communications officer. Adam looked out the window and saw the most incredible sight in galactic history. Ships from 47 different species were gathering around Unity Station. Some ships were sleek and fast, others were massive and powerful. A few looked like living creatures instead of machines. All of these species had come to sign the Galactic Mutual Defense Pact, an agreement that no civilization would ever have to face extinction alone again. If any species sent out a distress call, all the others would come to help. The idea had started with the humans, but now every major civilization in the galaxy wanted to be part of it. Commander Vextar, now promoted to Admiral of the New Zelani fleet, came to stand beside Adam. "Captain Foster, do you realize what your species has done?" Vextar asked. "We helped some friends who were in trouble," Adam replied. Vextar laughed. "You have changed the entire galaxy. For thousands of years, every species looked out only for themselves. Now, because of human example, 47 civilizations are promising to protect each other." The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Leaders from dozens of worlds put their names on the agreement. Earth's representative, Admiral Patricia Stone, signed for humanity. "Today marks the beginning of a new age," Admiral Stone said to the gathered representatives. "An age where no one has to face danger alone. An age where the strong protect the weak, and where distance means nothing when someone needs help." As the ceremony ended, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Adam rushed to the communications center. "Captain, we're receiving a distress call," reported the duty officer. "It's coming from the edge of the galaxy, about 60 light years from here. A species called the Morgathi is under attack by something they call the Void Swarm." Adam looked around the room at the representatives. From 47 different species. 6 months ago, this distress call would have gone unanswered, and the Morgathi would have died alone. "How many ships can we assemble?" Adam asked. The Velkari ambassador checked his tablet. "Over 3,000 vessels from 38 different species can be ready to launch within 6 hours. Adam smiled. The Morgathi had sent their desperate message hoping someone might hear it. Instead, they were about to be rescued by the largest fleet in galactic history. The combined fleet that launched from Unity Station was a sight that would be remembered forever. Human ships flew alongside Zelani vessels. Velkari hive ships moved, in formation with crystalline collective light cruisers. The Theks brought their powerful dreadnoughts, while smaller species contributed scouts and support ships. As the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, Adam thought about how much had changed. One human decision to answer a cry for help had transformed an entire galaxy. The universe was no longer a place where civilizations died alone in the dark. Now, when someone called for help, the entire galaxy would answer as one. Humanity's greatest gift to the stars was not technology or weapons. It was the simple but revolutionary idea that strangers were worth saving and that the strong had a responsibility to protect the weak, no matter the cost. The galaxy would never be the same.